Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Pen Habit. I want to start off today's review by saying a huge thank you to the Goulet Pen Company at gouletpens.com for providing the pen for today's review. They provided it free of charge in exchange for an honest review, and all opinions expressed herein are my own. So thank you again to Goulet Pens for providing the pen. Now, if you are familiar with this little logo here, you probably have a pretty good idea, or you've seen the title of the blog post, you probably have a pretty good idea what's in this box. This is the TWSBI Vac Mini. This is the newest of TWSBI's offerings. TWSBI does a great thing. They show prototypes and mock-ups of new pens and on their Facebook page, and they let the community give them suggestions and ideas, and they talk about it and build up a lot of buzz. And the Vac Mini is one that has built up a lot of buzz over a long period of time. So it's here now. I'm very excited to get a hold of it, and let me show you what we've got here. So comes in a standard cardboard box. Open up the flap here, and they've got this little styrofoam pad. If you've ever got a TWSBI pen before, this packaging is going to look very, very familiar to you. You've got the Vac Mini documentation, another styrofoam thing, and then the plastic pen box that it comes in. Pull this out here, get this out of the way. Standard pen box here, nothing too special. The bottom does come out, and underneath you've got a couple of extra gaskets, a wrench for opening the pen for cleaning, and some silicone grease for greasing the piston. And then, of course, we come to the pen itself. Now, the Vac Mini is the smaller brother or sister of the full-size TWSBI Vac 700. So you can see them here side by side. This is the Vac 700. This is the first commercially manufactured pen I ever purchased. It was like the third pen I ever bought. This is the Vac Mini, so obviously a smaller size, same filling system, and I'll go into that a little bit in just a moment. But really quite a nice little pen with a couple of issues to deal with. So let's talk through the design and show you what this is all about. So you start up here with the red jewel here with the TWSBI logo on the top. Got a nice streamlined clip here. Nice. I like this clean, streamlined design. It's springy, but feels really solid. It doesn't feel particularly flimsy. And then you come down to the Vac Mini, Taiwan, and then TWSBI down here on the cap band. The plastic of the cap is transparent. It is faceted, but it's not quite as faceted as some of the other pens. Like you can see the facets a lot more strongly on the Vac 700. These facets are a lot lighter and perhaps not as severe, and that may have something to do with the strength of the plastic and helping prevent cracking issues. One thing I'm a little perplexed by with this pen, I'll pull the top off to show you this, is the inner cap liner is in this kind of smoky gray material. I have no idea why they would choose to do that. There's nothing else that's that smoky gray on the pen. I am completely unclear why they do that. It makes it feel like it's dirty almost. So that's one little design feature that I'm not a huge fan of. It takes, let's do the test here. So it is 1.5 turns to remove the cap. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Underneath the cap, you've got some threads and a little rubber gasket here. Then you've got the full barrel. Again, some faceting, but not too bad. In perfectly clear plastic. Another little rubber gasket here. And then some threads for posting the pen. And then the filler knob. And we'll get to the filling system in just a bit as well. The section is removable, so you can unscrew the section. That helps a lot with cleaning this pen. It is perfectly cylindrical, also transparent plastic. So what you're seeing there is ink and the nib's feed. Then you've got this little metal collar in here that holds the nib unit in place. This is a number 5-ish sized Yovo nib, like all of TWSBI's nibs. I got the broad on this one, and it comes with kind of a standard plastic feed on the bottom. So if you've used TWSBI pens, nothing about this pen is going to be particularly surprising to you. This has TWSBI's DNA written all over it. I mean, no one could look at this pen and think it is anything other than a TWSBI pen if they know TWSBI pens at all. Now let's talk a little bit about the filling system. One of the things that makes this pen unique is the filling system. This is a vac filler. Now, if you've been around the industry or been around the community for a long time, you know vac fillers. I'm not going to be telling you anything that's new. So you might want to skip ahead if you've seen this already. I'm going to pull this up in my Vac 700 though, because it's not inked and I want to show you how this works. So this is the exact same system that is in the Vac Mini. It's just a little bit larger here. So that's just a miniature version of this. So the way it works is this cap comes open. You pull the piston all the way back, and you'll notice this little rubber ring here is creating a seal against the inside of the barrel. So as you are pulling back, you're pulling air into the system here. Then you push down, and as you're pushing down, you're pushing air out. What that does is it creates a vacuum back here. You're pushing the air down, there's no air here, so you're creating a vacuum. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but right here, you'll see that the inner barrel widens just a little touch. As soon as that does that, and you'll hear this little sound. Let me do that again a little bit faster so you can hear it. So as soon as you pass that point in the barrel, the airflow opens up and the vacuum sucks air and ink up into the barrel. Now, I'm going to overlay a little bit of B-roll here to show the inking of the Vac Mini so you can actually see this in action. You pull the piston back and then push it down slowly, and as soon as you hit a certain point, it sucks ink up into the barrel. That's very cool. It allows you to get a good fill of ink. It's a fun filling system, but it has a couple of drawbacks. The first is, I don't know if you can see this miniature. So there's two rubber stoppers. There's the big one that runs along the inside of the barrel, and then there's this smaller one. This smaller one, when the piston is screwed all the way down, actually blocks the ink from flowing to the nib. That means in order to use one of these pens, you have to basically unscrew the blind cap on the back. It's not a blind cap. Unscrew the cap on the back, and that will allow the ink to flow. Normally that's not a huge issue, but if you're using the pen for a lot of really short writing session, you know, a jot here, a jot there, a quick note there, a quick note there, that can be a little problematic. You don't necessarily need to open this. If there's ink in the feed, you can usually write a couple paragraphs, maybe half a page before it starts to run dry. But then you have to open up the pen to let the ink flow through. Some people don't care for that. It doesn't bother me too much. The other potential issue with this filling system is it can be a real pain to clean out. Fortunately, TWSBI makes all of their pens, including the Vac Mini, disassemblable. So you can take the whole vac filler mechanism, you just unscrew it from the back, you can clean it out thoroughly. The section comes off, you can clean it out thoroughly, you screw it all back together, and your pen is fully functional. It's really not that hard to take care of. And some people even have taken this little tiny rubber stopper off. When you take that rubber stopper off, you don't have to worry about opening up the back of the pen. They've tried to sell that little miniature rubber stopper as a feature. You know, you can close up the pen and tighten it down and it's not going to leak in the plane, that sort of thing. That sounds like someone in marketing trying to make a purse from a sow's ear. It's not really a feature in my mind. It's just a way of kind of painting what is a little bit of a pain. So that's on the Vac 700. This is the Vac Mini. It's the exact same feature. You can see there's I'll try to do this as best I can. There's the rubber stopper right there. It's locked down all the way. Now, when I had this pen, or when I was using this pen, basically I left this unopened all the time. I just didn't even bother capping it back up. I didn't have any problems with ink leaking out the backside or anything like that. So when I ink up this pen, I just leave that back cap open all the time. I almost never tighten it down, and I haven't had any problems with it. The other issue with this pen that you want to be aware of, it's not a deal killer, but look at it. It is a small pen. This is a pen that really needs to be posted, for me anyway, in order to be comfortable. So it's a little short, especially if I hold it down here as opposed to up here. I tend to hold a little higher up, as I've said many times in my videos. So I find this short. The interesting thing about this pen is you can't post it unless you use these threads. Now, the interesting thing about the threads are there's two ways for these threads to go on. There's two entry points on the threads, and you will either, depending on how you do it, get the clip to be exactly 180 degrees opposite of the nib, which is not ideal, or, and I'll see if I can get it to work. I have a problem with this working for me. I never seem to get it right. So yeah, I have an issue. It doesn't like to work for me. It's a real pain in the tuchus. There we go. So that 1.5 turns to uncap the pen is also needed to post the pen. So if you're one of those people who writes in short bursts and caps and uncaps your pen a lot, this is not the pen for you. If you're a person who sits down and writes long form, you're going to write a long letter, you're going to write in your journal, that sort of thing, this is great. And it writes really, really well. At least it does for me. But that constant capping and uncapping and posting and unposting and having to use the threads to post, in my mind, is a bit of a strike against the pen as a daily carry workhorse pen. Unless your hands are small enough, you don't need to post the pen, in which case you're good to go. So that's just something to be aware of. The other issue is I find this pen dries out pretty quickly. So, after 5 minutes of not having it capped, it's dry and I have to tap it a little bit to get the ink flowing again. So if you're not going to cap it and uncap it regularly, it can dry out a little bit. And again, that's just something to be aware of. It's not a deal killer, but you want to be aware of that. So let me go ahead and post the pen and show you a couple of comparisons here. So here is the TWSBI Vac Mini, the TWSBI Vac 700, the TWSBI Eco, and then a couple of other more affordable pens. Here is the Lamy Vista, or Lamy All-Star, which is the same size as the Safari and the Vista, and the Pilot Metropolitan. So you can tell this is even smaller than the Pilot Metropolitan when it's capped. And then, comparing it to some larger pens that you might be aware of, the Montblanc 149, the Pelikan M1000, and the Pelikan M800. So those three pens are obviously much more expensive and much larger. This does have the word mini in the name after all. And then in terms of measurements, you are looking at 124 millimeters with the pen capped. Uncapped, it is a pretty small 114. So again, really too small for my hands to use comfortably. And then posted, and I'm going to try to post this the right way. Haha, got it. It is 148.1 millimeters. So still not the longest pen in the world, but quite comfortable to use posted. And I find exceptionally well balanced when posted. So that's nice. The section is 10.3 millimeters. The widest point of the barrel is 12.8 millimeters. And the widest point of the cap is 14.7. And then the pen is only 16 grams uncapped, and that is with ink. And then capped or posted, you're adding another 10 grams for a total of 26. So that is the TWSBI Vac Mini. Nice little pen, a truly superb writer. And I got mine with the broad nib, so I will show you how that goes now. Okay. We have the TWSBI Vac Mini. Boy, I can't write. We are using a steel nib, and like all of TWSBI's nibs, this is made by the German company Jovo, so it's going to be more the European width, not the Asian width. It's not going to be like a Japanese pen. It's going to be more like a German pen, German nib, because it is a German nib, and this is in broad. And then the ink for today is Pilot Iroshizuku Amairo, which is their sky blue color. Quite a lovely blue. Okay, here is your quote. Alrighty. This nib is probably, well, it's not probably. This nib is without question the single best TWSBI nib I've ever used. It is really nice and juicy, without being overly so. It's not a gusher, it's not a paintbrush, but it's juicy for a good writer. It is quite smooth. Get over get the paper under the microphone here. It is quite smooth and requires no effort to write at all. It just floats across the paper. Really quite a lovely writing experience. Very little feedback, which is also quite nice. Yeah, it's a very well-tuned, beautiful writer. Now, some other reviewers, and I haven't read a lot of reviews on this pen on purpose. I try not to because I don't want to have my opinions tainted until after I've used the pen. But I know both Stephen Brown and Aziza Asgharali of Gourmet Pens, so SBRE Brown and Gourmet Pens, have had issues with this pen choking on the ink flow with them. I have not. So long as the piston knob is open at the back, instead of being tightened down, the ink flows beautifully on this pen. I haven't had ink starvation at all. It stays juicy from the beginning to the end. I even tried it with J. Urban 1670 Emerald of Chivor, which is one of those inks that has the glitter or the particulate in it, to see if that could choke up the nib and the feet a little bit, and it just behaved beautifully for me. So I don't know whether I got really lucky or they got really unlucky, but my experience with this pen is that the ink flow is superb from beginning to end. The grip is a little bit of an issue for me. There is a bit of a step up between the section and the threads. The threads aren't sharp or particularly uncomfortable. But I do hold the pen up here, as opposed to holding it down here. But that is so common with my grip and the way I hold the pen. I hardly even notice it anymore. So if you hold your pen on the section like a normal person would, I don't think you'll have any issues with this, because I prefer longer sections, and I hold my pen up high. That is something to keep in mind. But I do like the extra width that I get from holding it up here as opposed to the narrower grip from holding it down here. The pen feels very robust. It writes really well. I really don't have anything bad to say about it, other than be aware that the limitations of a vac filler exist on this pen, as they do on the TWSBI Vac 700, on the Pilot Custom Heritage 823. You have to open up that back, and the posting and unposting can be an issue with this pen. So long as neither of those two things bother you, I really can't say enough good about the pen. If either of those two things bother you, you might want to look for something else. Quick reverse writing here. Really superb reverse writer. Very smooth, nice fine medium line, no scratchiness, a little bit of feedback, but no scratchiness at all. Very, very good reverse writer there. So all in all, I just can't say enough good about this pen, aside from those little things that I mentioned earlier. Now, this pen does retail for $60 US. You can compare that to a couple of other TWSBI pens. So the Vac 700 retails for, I think, $85 the last time I checked. The TWSBI Eco retails for $30. So this is what you're paying for with this Vac Mini is the Vac Filling System. It is a more fiddly system, a lot more moving parts. It's really neat. It's a lot of fun. This is one of the most fun filling systems to use, but you're paying extra for the filling system. Of these three pens, my personal favorite is the Eco. I find the Eco to be the best of these three pens. The nib on this one is superb, and fortunately the nib on the Vac Mini and the nib on the Eco are the same, so I could swap them out and be very happy. I like the design on the Vac Mini more. I don't care for the cap so much on this, on the Eco. And I like the longer length of the Vac 700. So is it worth it? Yeah. If this is a pen you want, if this is a pen that meets your needs, I actually think $60 is a steal because it writes so well. Can you get a similar or, a better pen for less? Better's subjective. For me, the Eco is a better fit and it's $30, so I consider the Eco to be much better value for the money. But the Vac Mini is still a great pen, and it writes, as I've said several times, superbly. So that is my review of the TWSBI Vac Mini. Again, huge thank you to Goulet Pens at gouletpens.com for sending this Vac Mini for review purposes. I really appreciate it. You are great folks at Goulet Pens. And if you have any questions or comments about the Vac Mini or this review, please go ahead and leave them here on YouTube or over at penhabit.com. And keep an eye out on one of my social media haunts for announcements about upcoming things, upcoming giveaways, etc. I'm sure there will be something fun pretty soon. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you here next time on The Pen Habit. Bye.